spiritual walk. So I did a video 2 years ago about this topic, but I want to talk back about it again. So the video was called the New Age deception, and how to not get entrapped in the New Age deception. And this is another trend that I know is going to pick up again as far as the coming months comes, as we progress through this North Node in Gemini, this Mars and Aries energy. A lot of this Saturn and Aquarian energy is heavy right now. It's blanketed over in the stars, and so what it's going to come, what can come, and how one can avoid the traps and the snares that comes from this. So I discussed a video, like I said, 2 years ago about the spiritual age New Age deception, where we're going to see a rise of teachers and healers convert or go back to religious practices, and that is totally fine. What I want to talk to today is the individual, you guys, as far as what to do to avoid these traps and snarements. And one of the things that I noticed as far as the trends, and I went through it in the video, and I'll make sure I leave the link for you guys to watch my original video, because I think I did a very well description of the times and how to avoid it, but I just want to throw in some nuances within that. Let's see, I think I have some clips of it. I think I might want to play a clip from the video here.
They can relate to it. If we have a savior complex, we want somebody to save us from our trouble.
Okay, before I go into the video, let me go into this. This is what I want to talk about when it comes to New Age religion or New Age spiritual practices. First and foremost, none of these things are new. They may be new to us in this present journey that we're in, this present lifetime that we're in. Anything that deals with tarot or oracle cards or other religions outside of the ones that we may have grown up in, particularly the Abrahamic religions. Anytime that we feel an affinity towards something else, there is this notion that we get as far as leaving this one complex of savior complex, because we probably came from a savior type of religion that focused on a savior or some type of external being that's going to save you. We have this focus or this subconscious understanding of the savior. So when we go into New Age religions or spiritual practices or separate ourselves from the practice that we may have been, we still carry this identifier or the subconscious trigger that we need someone to save us, because there are demons or there are evil entities or there's something negative that's out to get us. And when we do that, we go into these practices from a fearful energetic level, right? I'm fearful, but I am coming to do this to, or I'm using tarot, or I'm using astrology, or I'm using sexuality, I'm using food, because it can really be anything, as a form of escapism. Spirituality is not escapism. Spirituality is a lifestyle that assists you in your spiritual life as much as you're in your physical earth life, because they are not separate. They are one and the same. And what we tend to do, we tend to want to other our spiritual selves. You know, that's an otherworldly part of me. It's not practical. It doesn't work in my everyday life, or we perceive that it doesn't have physical ramifications to what we experience here, right? We like to try to other our spiritual identities or our spiritual senses, when no, it's a part of your 5 senses that you have. Your body is going to be the vehicle that you're using to maneuver in the spiritual realm, because this is still a spiritual world. It's just mattered right now. It's in matter form or a denser form. And what I've noticed is that these people who get into these spiritual practices or these occult teachings or occult knowledge, and they want to come out as and prop themselves up as teachers, whether unknowingly or knowingly, and they're sharing messages, they're doing readings, they're doing these things and not recognizing what they are connected to or what they are. And that's one of the biggest problems I see. And one of myself as being an advocate, I am not an advocate for spiritual practices or entities or deities or spirit guides. Yes, I work with these, but I do not advocate people to do that without doing the proper necessities of being grounded and aware of yourself. I am so big on that, because before you can work with any ancestor, angel, God, goddess, entity, whatever, you have to be able to know your voice first. I shared an exercise on one of our power prayer videos. I think it was the Thursday one, about how to clear yourself or your mindset for those who deal with running thoughts, right? You have to make sure that your mind is clear, that you know it's your mind, your voice that you're listening to first, before you start opening up yourself, as far as opening your third eye, trying to ignite Kundalini. All those things happen naturally. They're not something that you should force to happen. And what I see has happened over this time in my space in this journey, people do these things prematurely, and what end up happening, they end up having psychotic breakdowns. They end up having what is considered a spiritual attack, because they want to run away, which they don't recognize they're doing this, but they're running away from their own inner demons, their dark selves, right? Their ancestral dark past, their karma baggage that they carry, because we all carry karma, whether it's karma that's positive for you, because karma doesn't have to be bad. We seem to equate karma to being something bad, but good karma, bad karma, spiritual gifts, spiritual curses. And instead of wanting to use spirituality as a way to tap into, face these things and to overcome them and to have dominion over them, spirituality is used as a form to escape. And I mentioned this with talking about goddesses. Typically we want to contact goddesses for the aesthetic purposes, for the beauty, for the love purpose. We want to use magic or the law of attraction to bring forth love to us, or lovers, or these experiences, right? Which nothing is wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that. But that is not the highest form you can use your law of attraction and your law of mentalism for. I'm not saying that you can't use it on the earthly realm to attract those things to you, but we tend to only limit that practice, or limit our practice for those things. If only I could manifest love, then I'll be fine. If only I could manifest a partner, or if I could manifest this job, if I could manifest a certain amount of money. We're chasing the things, right? And not getting to the root of why these practices and systems are in place. These practices and systems are in place to connect us back to our source. So it doesn't matter if you go through a religion. It doesn't matter if you're going through an occult practice or whatever. The goal is to stay back connected to yourself, to your source, to your higher self, your higher power, your higher self, the I am, right? That is the purpose of the journey, your spiritual journey, no matter which route you decide to choose. So there's no judgment to which route people choose. And so if somebody chooses to go to religion, somebody chooses to submit to a deity, somebody chooses to be an occultist, doesn't matter which path you choose, as long as your path gets you to where you need to belong, which it's all getting us there. Some paths take longer than others, but this is what is going to be important. Do not expect people to be your leaders. Do not expect people to have the end all say so over your life. At the end of it and the beginning of it, you are responsible for your spiritual journey, your spiritual achievements, your spiritual growth, awareness, and self-actualization. That is what you are responsible for. And if any person is taking you away from that, challenge that spirit to ensure that spirit is even something you should be working with. Okay? Challenge that. Challenge those people. Or you can just completely disconnect. That's going to be something important to understand in this journey, is to pace yourself. I am not on your level. You're not on my level. And no one level is better. None. It is all a journey. We're all going the same place. We have different perspectives and different ways to get there. Okay? So this is where I want to go and talk about strategy. Being a spiritual warrior, we have to recognize that there is strategy in how we have to maneuver in life. What I've been guilty of doing this too, is that we'll use, like I said, spiritualism as an escapism, as a way to escape our everyday predicaments, our realities, right? All these bills have to be paid. All these kids have to be raised, or I have to do this for my job. Whatever our everyday lively activities that we participate in, we sometimes get caught up in using spirituality as a way to escape from these things, which we recognize that yes, none of this stuff is real, but it has real ramifications and real consequences when we participate and when we don't participate. Okay, so we're in the land of living, so let's participate in the land of the living. I'm going to give an example of this story as far as when I'm talking about spiritual protection. And spiritual protection as far as being a warrior in the spirit as much as you are in the physical. And the way that we do this in the physical, particularly I'm talking to the women, is your spiritual warfare in the physical does not necessarily mean you're going to exert yourself as far as being like physical battle. It may come to that. You should know how to physically defend yourself. You know, I'm not saying that's not something you should not know how to do. That's a part of being prepared spiritually and physically. That's why I say your body is really the most important thing to start with your spiritual journey. It's being connected to the body, because the first thing that we want to do, we want to get into our headspace. We want to get into the other worldly realms without being grounded in our body. So the body is the first place to start with. And I recommend starting with the elements. And I definitely have a course that goes through the elements as far as grounding yourself through that. But before I talk about the course, let me just give you a briefing understanding of why you want to ground yourself in your body first. Because your body is your Merkaba. It is your vehicle to maneuver. It is your spacesuit, if you want to call it that, to maneuver in this earth existence, right? This earth realm. It helps us to breathe. It allows me to take in air. It allows me to use my senses, my sense of smell, touch, taste, sight, feel, emotional feeling. It is my vehicle to maneuver through all of this so that I can level up and experience the fullness of myself in this third dimensional realm. I can't experience the fullness of myself in the spiritual realm. There's a limitation by being in a body. That's a limitation of my spiritual self. But it's a way that I can express myself fully in this realm. So that's first thing first, is to connect with the body. When you're connecting with the body and listen to your own body triggers, that helps you to maneuver a lot easier within this world space. So I want to share this story. It comes from the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is a series of books that were not part of the original canon when the Bible was being put together. However, there were some books that were notable mentioned. I believe these books are still considered in the Catholic Church tradition. Should have brought the book with me, but the story comes out of the book of Judith. And to give you guys a synopsis of the story, Judith, she was a widower of a Israel man, a very notable Israel man. So her husband has been dead about 3.5 years or 3 years or so. And there is a war or a battle coming against the Israelites, right? And so Judith got word that the commanders of the Israelites were going to surrender the people to their enemies because they felt they were outnumbered, they were outmatched, and there's no way that they'll be able to fight back. So they decided to just, allow themselves to be taken over. So when Judith heard of this, she went to the commander of the Israelites and was like, hey, what's up with that, right? What are you guys doing? And so long story short, they was not trying to hear what she had to say. They was like, yeah, we're just going to surrender. So they're going to just be prepared to be, raped, pillaged, kidnapped, prisoned. Just prepare. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to let these people take over. So what Judith did, she was not taking that as an answer. So she was like, nah. So what she did was she went back into her tent or her home, and this time she was wearing her widow clothing. So there was a particular style or fashion that a widow wore to, show that she's in widow mode. And she began to cry before her God, and she was crying and weeping and going through her, allow herself to go through the emotion of the feelings of that fear and of that sadness that the captains or the commanders were going to, let the people be taken over by this enemy. And once she stopped crying, she then called in for her handmaidens, and they prepared her a bath. She said, prepare me a bath, get my best oils, get my jewelry, my adornments. And she began to anoint herself in the oils and bathe herself and adorn her hair, adorn her makeup, her face, her beauty. She began to adorn herself. And when she did that, her and her handmaidens, they went to the enemy's camp, right? And the enemy saw these women, and they were so beguiled by their beauty, and they were like, wow, they were thinking to themselves, with women as beautiful as this, who would want to go to war with somebody like that? So anyway, so Judith and her women, they went to the enemy's camp, and she ended up getting close to the high commander or something. And in there, while being close to him, he was just completely wooed and wowed by her. She was able to overcome him and cut his head off, and was able to present the head of the leader of the enemy to the Israelites' commander. And she was able to use that, her energy, her feminine strategy, and her feminine war tactics to defeat the said enemies, so that the Israelites did not have to be taken as servants or slaves or taken by their enemy. So the story here I'm giving here is another realm of spiritual warfare, but in the feminine form. As far as being in flow and recognizing that we don't use goddesses as a way to escape and just focus on the love and light part of them, but we recognize goddesses are gods of love and war. And war and love is something that goes hand in hand, and recognizing that there is a time for both. And when we don't use the warrior aspect of the feminine, we continue to run from our subconscious mind. We continue to run from the traumas and the parts of our lives, the fragmented parts of ourselves. We run from that instead of mending it and making it whole. The feminine side, or feminine understanding, is about being. The masculine is about the doing. And when we step away from just always doing and just allow ourselves to be, and we recognize those enemies, those demons, or whatever parts of ourselves that are, that repel us, or what we feel repelled to, when we just be in loving energy of ourself, of who we are, and we allow that part of us to be, that's when you're able to face those traumatic eras in your life, or those demons, and able to recognize and know why are they here. And you can have a conversation of it. I know this because that's something I had to do with my own personal journey. I share with you guys, I have Saturn in the first house, and that was one of my lessons and blessings that Saturn was there to represent and show to me, is that you can't run from yourself. My Saturn's in my first house. That's the house of self. And Saturn was showing me that we cannot run from ourselves. We have to face the dark parts of ourselves just as much as we want to pinpoint the light part. But if we only focusing on the light and not on the dark, we begin to be out of balance. And from the out of balance, that's when the areas that we've been ignoring, they get louder. They start gnashing at the teeth. They start coming against us even stronger. There's an interview that Tupac did, and he was an interview. He was talking about pretty much about black people, how they were feeling at the times of marching and asking. And at one point in time, our ancestors were asking, and then they were marching. And then he said, after a while, if you got a group of people who are hungry, in the beginning, they're going to be real civil, like, hey, we're hungry, feed us. And then after a while, they're going to be like, hey, open up the door, you need to feed us, we're hungry. And then as time goes, it gets to a point where they're no longer asking or begging, they're kicking the door down because, hey, you're going to see me and get my attention. So I'm using that analogy, as that's what our demons, or the dark parts of ourselves that we ignore, does. Or your inner child. If you ignore your inner child, eventually that inner child is going to run amok in your life, and it's going to come out in your relationships, your finances, how you interact. It's going to come out in your dream space. You're going to feel like you're being attacked, something's out to get you, when it's really you trying to get your attention. So this is what spirituality is for. Spirituality is for ourselves, to up-level and mend the fragmentation of ourselves. Put back the feminine side with the masculine side, and allow them to be in tandem with each other, not at war with each other. Again, I see you guys are commenting, and I was in flow. But yeah, that definitely. If you guys want to add anything to this conversation, definitely please do. I'm going to make sure I send the link of the video. It's going to be in my bio, and I'll make sure I leave it in the on my IG story too, so you guys can watch that video when I was talking more specifically to the New Age deception, how to not get entrapped. Especially in this age, we have to be keenly aware. We have to be. Nothing is what we expect it to be, or we seem it to be. And even people that we associate ourselves with, who we call to be our teachers or our healers, I say, even with me, use your intuition. If something about me is not resonating, doesn't fit right with you, you got to trust yourself. Trust yourself that you can make the best decision for yourself. And that comes from trust and faith. And that really comes from trust and faith in your higher power, your higher knowing. And knowing that it will not lead you astray. And knowing that you won't lead yourself astray when you truly trust yourself and listen to yourself. So that's definitely. Are you referring to the pretty boss situation? I'm not referring to her. I actually made this video 2 years ago, but that is one aspect of it as well. You know, that is another aspect of it. Again, we're going to see that with a lot of people. But again, everybody has their own path that they have to choose. And we have to recognize that everybody has their path. And sometimes our path will intertwine with others, and then it will sometimes go another way. But we have to be very cognizant of where our path is leading us. But yeah, let's see. Anybody else have anything to say? And this is here for a conversation, because I don't want to take over the conversation. I want you guys to share your thoughts and your opinions on the matter when it comes to New Age spirituality, and when it comes to these practices and other religion traditions. There's another thing I mentioned too. This I think is important, because this actually is going to go into the story that I want to share. So I shared you guys the story of Judith, right? There's another story that happened. This is a real life story that actually was posted on Facebook from a Facebook friend I know. And she was sharing that she was on a dating site like Tinder or something, and she was matched with the person. They messaged a few times, and the guy was getting a little, not pushy, but just really was pushing the issue to know where she worked at or where her location was. As far as they were local to each other, but she didn't want to give her location as far as where she worked, and she didn't have to give that information. She didn't know this person from Adam, and that wasn't for them to share. But anyway, long story short, she ended up just no longer talking to this person. Months went by. She ended up going to work one day, and while she was at work, her a receptionist would let her know there was a guy here for her. And when they sent the guy back, it ended up being the guy from the Tinder account that she had messaged months back. Now, she didn't remember this until the guy mentioned it to her. Was like, hey, I'm the dude from Tinder, and I've been trying to look for you because I want to know why you didn't respond back to my messages. So he searched her out to find out why she didn't respond back, and she was like, well, I moved on, whatever, right? So he was upset about that and was like, well, next time you move on, let somebody know, and left her shop. Well, she was quite traumatized by that because she didn't give any personal information of herself to this man to find her. And so she ended up tried to press charges, and she tried to get press charges for harassment. And the police told her that, well, this wasn't a crime. The guy didn't commit any crime, so therefore, you need to move on. She wasn't taking that. She got a second opinion from another officer who works specifically in sex crimes and heinous crimes, and he was able to let her know what this man did to you was stalking. So they was able to get this guy up and explain to him why what he was doing was wrong. And, well, they wanted to know, how'd you even find out where she worked? And what he did, he used her profile and was able to match up her IP addresses and looked around the local hairstyle shops and stuff like that to find her. So it took him about 90 days, 3 months to find her, and he did. And so that's what he did. And so they had to explain to him why that was wrong, and that's considered stalking, and the guy wasn't understanding that. But long story short, the message I want all people to get from this, not just women, but all people to get from this, is that we live in a physical world. And yes, you can have your crystals, yes, you could do your prayers, all that stuff is still power and work. But we have to make sure that we're doing our work on the physical to ensure that we're making room and space for the spiritual to move and have its way, right? So I say this is why one of my personal things that I advocate for is internet protection and safety, as well as physical protection and safety. Knowing how to physically defend yourself, knowing and being aware of your surroundings, aware of archetypes, aware of people. But then in order to do that, you have to be first aware of self. And once you're aware of self, you're able to recognize other spirits. And creating avenues for yourself that gives you a realm of protection. So whether it's having a VPN, whether it's not sharing personal information online, changing passwords, having emails designated to certain emails, emails for, when you want to do coupons and giveaways, having an email and phone number specifically for that, categorizing your life in a way that gives you a level of room to maneuver within this world and keep yourself have a hedge of protection around that as well. I would love to hear your take on Black is King and the spiritual symbols. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that video. I'm taking my time with that one, but I'm doing a video on that, definitely. Yeah, a lot of coded cosmology in that. A lot of cosmology. The Dogon cosmology was big in that. Yeah, so we'll talk about it another time, but definitely. So creating realms of spiritual protection and physical protection. You're not obligated to give your information to anybody. Currently right now I have a person that is on my YouTube channel that has literally gone to every one of my videos asking a specific question about myself and came to me as if they were entitled to know these specific things about me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not entitled to share anything specifically related to myself. I do share parts of myself and parts of my journey, yes, but I don't have to give you specific details of what you want to know about me. And neither do you have to do it to anybody else. And we have to have boundaries for ourselves, bound our Aries energy. We have to know when to bind it and when to set it free. Being aware of yourself on all levels is more than just awareness. It's a beautiful journey. It's not easy and it's not hard. I want us to get away from these easy and hard words. Setting restrictions and setting limitations and giving yourself boundaries, giving boundaries to other people. It's not as hard as we think it is. It's an act of self-love to do that, to give yourself boundaries and give other people boundaries. Hey, my dear. Hey, E-Queen. So yeah, so we're talking about spiritual awareness and spiritual. But yeah, we're talking about spiritual entrapments and new age spiritualisms, spiritual practices. One of the things that I do believe, though, and I definitely believe this, is that when it comes to outside leadership, right, or outside teachers, having teachers outside of you, it's recognizing where your wisdom ends and where your wisdom begins. And when you invite people to be your teacher, I strongly do believe in having mentors and having people that are in your council, because you want a group of wise counsel. The same way you will in the spiritual realm have your spiritual court. You want to have your physical spiritual court, teachers and healers who fruits, judge the person by their fruit, whose fruits show that they have been doing this. One thing I think is disheartening is that although we are in a very self-taught age, which I'm not against self-teaching, I'm self-taught, but I definitely recognize when I need a teacher, when I need somebody who is well-versed in an area that I want to participate in, one being the Orishas. I knew I cannot, and I share this story again, when I tried to first connect with goddesses, I was trying to connect to the Orisha Oshun, and it was not working for me. She was not responsive to me, and she is so now, but at that time when I was trying to do that, I could not go through her. I had to go through a different goddess, a feminine energy, before I could get to her, because I had to get some things cleared up within myself. Okay, I was like, nope. Before you even think you about to do some love and light, love, romance, whatever you think Oshun's about, before you do that, you need to deal with this stuff first. And I want to ensure that we are using that we're going to these spiritual practices with an open heart, yes, but with a clear mind on what it is that we're trying to get out of this. What is this going to do to benefit you? And what do you have to give to get? Because everything is a relationship. It is a relationship. What type of relationship do you have with these deities? If it is a deity, what type of relationship do you have with these angels or spirit guides, or that you want to have with them? Because just as much as you are doing for them, they are doing for you. The same way you create friendships in the 3D realm, it's the same thing happening on the spiritual realm. There's spiritual friendships, spiritual allies, spiritual enemies. Keep it real. And we have to be cognizant of that. And so, God, this conversation go really deep, because a lot of these spirits though are man-made, human-made. There are some that are primordial. There are primordial spirits or entities, but there are also entities that are man-made, but they have power because there's enough people who believe into, who gives energy to it. So therefore, it lives off that energy, and this thing could get really bad, and as much as it could be good. But that's just a conversation for another day. But I wanted to discuss with that with you guys and just share that, share my thoughts with that. I'm going to leave the link to the original video I did 2 years ago about the New Age deception, because I think I really went into that very elegantly, and I was like, wow, says you was on it. Pat yourself on the back for that one. But yeah, so I'm gonna reconnect. I'm gonna repost that video, guys. It's on my YouTube. I'm gonna post the link here for you guys to watch it. And yeah, we're in a great time right now, a beautiful time. But we have to really gird our loins, because those who are spiritual warriors, gird your loins. This is real. What do people when they say test the spirit? What do people, are you asking what do people mean when they say test the spirit? Yeah, test it against your own. Like, okay, for instance, if you find somebody on YouTube, let's say a reader or something, a card reader, to test that spirit, question yourself, what is it that attracts you to this specific person? Is it that you resonate with the message that they're saying? Is it their personality? Is it that the way they look, the way they sound? You know, that's what we mean by test, from at least in my perspective, what it means to test a spirit. You know, anytime I do go into looking for readers, if I do like look for YouTube readers or anything like that, anybody who's oracle or tarot, I don't take the message. I don't go in there and with the message being for me. I take it as information, and I process information. That's the way my mind works. I process information, and my thing is, does any of this information that was said in this reading, said in this card pull, does it resonate with me? Even if it's like a pick a card kind of card reading, and I still pick a card, and if I listen to it, I don't listen with the intent of having it seeped into me and it being truth to me. I listen to it and just take it as information. I'm completely emotionally detached from the information. I take it as information and I process it to see, does this information apply? And if it does, I utilize it. If it does not, or I don't see where it applies, I just store it away. But you have to test the spirit, and that's one thing I believe testing the spirit is testing against yourself. And in order to do that, you have to start with yourself. For me, how I know when my intuition's at work, I get a certain feeling in my stomach and in my throat. That's where my body triggers me. It's always in my stomach and my throat, and it's always like this itchy back of throat kind of feel, because I listen to my body enough, even down to my my womb, you know, my vaginal area, that it speaks to me about certain people. Like if I feel a certain nudge or a cramp or a movement, I recognize what the movement is saying, because I've slowed myself down enough. And that was a journey, and still is a part of my journey, is learning to slow myself down, because I have a lot of fire energy. So I'm a fast action. Once I see something, I'm on it. And I don't even always need the full information, just see what something is. I can get a whiff of it and like, okay, call the spirit out for what it is. But just because I have that gift or that skill or that ability, I still have to slow myself down, because I'm in a third dimensional realm, and not everything that I see is meant for me to spark and say something or do something. Some things are meant to be processed and put on the back burner and turn the eye down and let it simmer. Some things are for that. That's been my own personal journey of learning to slow down. Yeah, you see it, but don't act on it right now. Just know you see it, and let it simmer, so that when it's time for you to take something off the pot, you'll be ready. But all right, ladies and gents, I think that is all that I have for you guys today. My intuition is on the top of my head. I get the tingling. Oh, okay. See, that's exactly. What's that, baby?
Mom, look.
Oh, you put it in a ponytail?
No, Joy did.
Oh, Joy did? It's very pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, well, enjoy it.
My
Oh, okay. Yeah, so good. That's good knowing where your body speaks to you. Your body speaks to you. You have to know where it resonates at. That's why I say connect in nature. Meditation is a beautiful thing. Sitting down and just being still and just being observant. Like I tell you, I used to love going to parks, but I still do. I love going to parks and just people watching. But now I nature watch. I just watch and observe and just be being in the moment. Oh, thank you, Black Treasure Chest. Thanks so much. Oh yes, I'm telling you, this is like, I'm telling you, we have to be here. Our journey is for us personally, yes, and we do share our journey. And in sharing our journey, that's where we see resonance, and your vibe attracts your tribe. And you have to go where you feel led to go, where your spirit is leading you to go. So either lead yourself or be led astray. That is my complete motto for my personal life. But alrighty, ladies and gents, thank you guys for rocking with me today. This is Tahiri Divine. You can find me on all my social sites as Tahiri Divine, where I am the student and the teacher that is here for the upleveling of our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial security. Okay? Security and transcendence. That's what we do. That's how we rock out. You guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.